Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beasmore Sports Podcast. I know I haven't done an episode in a long time, but I'm trying to get back into it this week. And today we are going to talk about Sahvir Wheeler returning to UK since he just announced yesterday or on Sunday that he would be returning to UK. The whole Shaedon Sharpe saga or the story that's been going on. And then also a caustic commit for UK for basketball with Antonio Reeves. And then finally, we're going to talk about the NFL draft for a little bit since it's this week on Thursday. So we're only 3 days away from, UK players finally getting drafted. A lot got drafted last year. I think 6 or 7 did. So hopefully that will continue to happen. But let's get into the podcast. First, like I said, we're going to talk about Sahvir Wheeler returning. And I'm honestly happy he's returning. I know a lot of fans are upset with him returning because of how bad he was last season. And I mean, he did average last season 3 turnovers per game, and then also only shot 31% from three in the regular season, which he was not a shooter. We all knew that whenever he was at Georgia, he could not shoot the ball. He would attack the rim, dribble, try to find an open man, whether that be, the big man in the post or a 3-point option. And this season, it was working out fine for Sahvir Wheeler and UK until injuries derailed this team and this season. I mean, Ty Washington was supposed to be a shooter. So was Kellen Grady, but Kellen Grady got into a shooting slump at the end of the year. And then also Ty Washington was coming back from 2 injuries that he suffered. I think it was 2, maybe 3 injuries that he suffered during the season. And he was never the same after those injuries. And then we also find out that Kellen Grady was fighting a foot injury the whole year, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he wasn't shooting the best towards the end of the year. And then Keon Brooks, he was a mid-range shooter. He can really shoot the 3. And then Oscar Tshiebwe would be hitting mid-range shots, but also attacking the rim. So I think if next season, if we can get Antonio Reeves on the team next year, I think we'll be fine. He's a great shooter, averages 20 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, and nearly 2 assists. All we need is really shooters near Sahvir Wheeler. And if we can get that, and also if Sahvir Wheeler can even improve his jump shot, whether that be shooting mid-range shots or what. But I know with Sahvir Wheeler, he almost shot 80% from the free throw line. And I'm thinking to myself, if you can shoot so well from the free throw line, why aren't you really great at shooting the mid-range shot? But like I said, I'm happy he's returning. Like I said, he almost averaged a double-double. I mean, 10 points per game and 7 assists per game. He definitely shared the ball and scored when he needed. And that's all we need. I mean, during SEC play, he shot 38% from the 3. So that's pretty great because on average, you want to shoot 50, 40, 90, 50% field goal percentage, 40% from the 3-point line, and then 90% from the free throw line. So with that, if he can just shoot a little bit better from the 3, making it 40%, I mean, that's what everybody aims for, 50, 40, 90 club, 50%, like I said, from the field goal line, 40% from 3, and then 90% from the free throw line. And I think that's very doable. If he comes back, works on his jump shot, I think we'll be fine. Like I said, we just need him to work on a jump shot and limit the turnovers, and I think we'll be all right with guard play. And then now let's talk about a little bit with Shaedon Sharpe. And I've read so much about Shaedon Sharpe, over the past week, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, there's been a lot of drama behind the scenes and honestly bad PR and everything that's going on with him. Sorry about my cough, but I feel bad for Shaedon Sharpe because I really don't think it's on him necessarily. I think it's on his mentor with Dwayne Washington. I feel like he's been guiding Shaedon Sharpe in the wrong way in doing what he has done since last October. And honestly, if I was Shaedon Sharpe, I would definitely try to get a new mentor because from what I've been reading and everything was at this point during the season, Ty Washington was injured, so was Sahvir Wheeler. And it sounded like Shaedon's parents were okay with him playing. Shaedon was fine with himself playing, and so was Coach Cal. But Dwayne Washington, his mentor, or Shaedon Sharpe's mentor, Dwayne Washington, decided, hey, let's not play you this season. And then I also read back in October, whenever he was talking to KSR, that he hasn't graduated high school at all and that he would be graduating in December. So now there were reports out saying that he graduated in May of last May. And I'm thinking to myself, if he graduated in last May, why didn't he commit to a school, and then come to UK in August? Because we would have gladly accepted him back in August as well. But I thought like I said, the whole plan for Shaedon Sharpe was for him to sit out in the spring and then for him to come back in the fall and to play at UK for one full year and make sure he would be a number one draft pick. But for me, with this whole Shaedon Sharpe situation, it definitely needs to be handled better. If UK does get another handler like they did with Dwayne Washington, and I'll admit, Dwayne Washington, he did great with what's his name? I can't think of his name, the Kentucky guard. I'll come back to him, but he did great with handling him. I remember it was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He did great handling him, got him. I don't know if he got drafted in the lottery, but he was the first round pick. He took over Quade Green's spot as a guard, and so far, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has had a great NBA career, even though he's on the Oklahoma City Thunder, which they aren't really a great team right now in the NBA, but hopefully they will eventually. Not hopefully they won't waste, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's career there. But we'll see what happens with that. But like I said, going back to Shaedon Sharpe, I hope everything gets handled properly. Like I said, I'm not really mad at Shaedon Sharpe, and I'm not really mad at Coach Cal. I know a lot of people were saying fire Coach Cal because people were like, he knew that Shaedon Sharpe was going to leave after this season. And honestly, I didn't really think Shaedon Sharpe was going to leave up until probably, I would say, the SEC tournament game against Vanderbilt. Because I remember back in, I don't know, February, I saw a tweet saying that he would be eligible for the NBA draft. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, how do you go from ineligible for the NBA draft to being eligible for the NBA draft? Like I said, we don't know for sure if Shaedon Sharpe is eligible for the draft. He probably will be, but I know the rules are you have to be 1 year out of high school to be able to be drafted, and then also at least I think 18 or 19 years old. So I think the NBA will handle it properly, and and Shaedon Sharpe will obviously be eligible for the NBA draft, in my opinion. So sad that we won't get to see him in the blue and white, but if he somehow is not ineligible or is ineligible for the NBA draft, oh my, UK will be loaded next year. We'll have Sahvir Wheeler, Shaedon Sharpe, Jacob Toppin, and then also Oscar Tshiebwe, and then we could also have Chris Livingston, Cason Wallace coming here. UK will be loaded. That's my dream case scenario, though, that Shaedon Sharpe returns. I doubt he will, but we'll see. My starting five, if we do get Antonio Reeves, would be probably Sahvir Wheeler, Antonio Reeves, Shaedon Sharpe, and if we get Keon Brooks Jr. to return, Keon Brooks Jr., and then also Oscar Tshiebwe. So that's my starting five. Like I said, that would be my dream case scenario. And then obviously come half off the bench, you would have Cason Wallace, Chris Livingston, and then also Jacob Toppin. That would be my dream case scenario. And then of course can't forget Lance Ware. I love that man. He did so much better in his sophomore year compared to his freshman year, and it's always about making improvements. But like I said, that's my dream case scenario. I hope Shaedon Sharpe returns. I don't know if he will. I doubt he will, and I think he'll obviously go to the NBA draft. But we'll see what happens and see if the NBA will rule him eligible or not. And we'll talk a little bit now about Antonio Reeves. I know I've mentioned him earlier today in the podcast, but let's talk about him for a second. At Illinois State, he averaged 20 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, and nearly 2 assists per game. Oh my, that would be great to have along with Sahvir Wheeler. Think about it. If Sahvir passes it out to Antonio Reeves for a three, that would be great. And he's a shooter, and that's what we need. We need shooters constantly because I think that's been a problem the past few years with UK. With UK, we haven't had a lot. We haven't had a lot of shooters. I mean, Isaiah Briscoe was not a shooter. Ashton Higgins was not a shooter. Devin Askew was not a shooter. You just need to be able to get players who can make their shots. And Kellen Grady, like I said, he was performing great for most of the year up until the end. He struggled a little bit at the very beginning, but really found his groove towards the middle of the season. But sadly, he started to lose his shot towards the end. And everybody was saying, maybe we should play, Shaedon Sharpe, but Shaedon Sharpe was not a choice. And then people were saying, play Dante Allen. But whenever Dante Allen got playing time this year, he didn't really show out. I don't know what his stats were this past year. He transferred to my alma mater, though, WKU, so I'm excited to see what he can do there. But hopefully we can get Antonio Reeves and then a couple more transfers. I'm hoping we can get Kenneth Lofton Jr., but I don't think we'll get him. But like I said, I hope Antonio Reeves commits to UK very soon. I think it will happen, though, eventually. I was reading from what Kyle Tucker said. Kyle Tucker said that Shaedon Sharpe will declare for the NBA draft, and then soon afterwards, Antonio Reeves will also commit to UK. So hopefully that happens. It hasn't happened yet. A lot of rumors were happening this weekend saying Antonio Reeves will commit sometimes this weekend or sometimes this week. Hasn't happened, but I think it will. And I think he'll be a great addition to UK for next season. And then my final topic for today's podcast is we're going to talk about the NFL draft. Like I said, the NFL draft starts on Thursday, so hopefully we'll see some players get drafted. I think it's the first 2 rounds, maybe first 3 rounds the first night. I think it's a 3-day process if I remember right. It goes from Thursday to Saturday, so hopefully we'll see a lot of players get drafted. I know I'm ready to see Josh Pascal and Wan'Dale Robinson for sure get drafted at UK or drafted in the NFL draft from UK. Like I said, Josh Pascal has gone through so much with him defeating cancer, and I just love his story. I'm going to try to get him on a podcast episode with me. He told me he would do it, but I don't know. He hasn't got back to me since we've talked about doing a podcast episode, but he said he would be very interested, and he said it would have to be closer to the NFL draft, and it's already close, but I just gotta wait for his response. I messaged him about a week ago to see if I could get him on a podcast episode. So now we wait on him. And then other players on UK that could get drafted in the NFL draft would be Darian Kennard, Luke Fortner, Derry Rosenthal, Yusuf Corker, and Marcon McCall. Any of these players can get drafted. In my opinion, I feel like from Josh Pascal to Luke Fortner, I feel like those players they could get drafted within the third to fifth round. I think Wan'Dale Robinson even has a chance to go second round maybe, and then everybody else I feel like they have a chance to go fifth through the seventh round. So we'll see where Derry Rosenthal, Yusuf Corker, and Marcon McCall ends up. But like I said, I feel like most of these players will get drafted. I mean, last year we had a lot of players get drafted. 6 players got drafted last year. Jamin Davis, Kelvin Joseph, Quentin Bohanna, Brandon Eccles, Landon Young, and Phil Hoskins all got drafted last year. And 6 players, that's a lot. It tied the 4th most in school history and the most since 1979, which is insane. And then also in 2020, you can't forget Lynn Bowden Jr. and Logan Steinberg, which were drafted in 2019. And then Kentucky also had 5 NFL draft picks in Josh Allen, Lonnie Johnson Jr., Mike Edwards, Benny Snell Jr., and George Osafo Adeje. So, like I said, UK is definitely up. It's definitely going up in their program, and they've been doing great over the past few years. I mean, 2018, we had 10 wins. This past year, we had 10 wins. I think, honestly, right now, I would say for UK, I would say probably 8 wins is probably where we should start thinking UK should start, at 8 wins, where they should be getting 8 wins every year and then slowly improve to 9, 10 wins each year. I think, like I said, I feel like we could go undefeated one year. I know it's me being crazy, but I feel like we could. I feel like we could beat Georgia one year, Florida, uh, definitely UK with how well we've been doing over the past few years. I think UK could end up going 12-0. Obviously, we probably wouldn't be competing against Alabama in the SEC championship game, but it's a dream that we would be 12-0, be able to defeat Alabama in the SEC championship game, and then be national champions in football. But like I said, I think 8 or 9 wins would be right now what we should be looking at for UK in football each year, and I think that's a pretty good step. And I'm talking about 8 or 9 wins before the bowl game, of course. If we get, if we don't have 8 wins by the bowl game, then definitely it's a disappointing year or a season, in my opinion, because you don't want to be 7-5 going into a bowl game. You want to definitely be 8-4, 9-3. I mean, like I said, in 2018 and 2020, we had 9 wins going into the bowl game. And I think 8 or 9 wins would be average for UK, I think, per year. And I think that's a good step. But I can't wait for the NFL draft. Like I said, it starts on Thursday. I'm very excited to see where these players end up at. I'm excited to see where Wan'Dale and Josh Pascal will end up at. And like I said, hopefully they'll end up on a good team. Maybe my Cincinnati Bengals, one of the players will end up there. I remember when was it 2015, whenever Bud Dupree got drafted. I remember I was like, Bengals, draft Bud Dupree, please. But they didn't. I forgot who they drafted. And then the next pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted him. And now Bud Dupree is now on the Tennessee Titans, I believe. And hey, my Cincinnati Bengals, beat them. So I was happy about that this past year. But like I said, I wish every UK football player good luck in the NFL draft. I think they'll definitely succeed in the NFL. And I think UK football will continue to grow, continue to rise in the SEC program. And I think we could be competing for the SEC championship in the next coming years. I would say within the next 2 or 3 years, I'd say UK will be competing in the SEC championship game. And it just depends on if we can beat Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. I feel like those 3 schools, and now even I feel like if we beat those 3 schools, we have a great chance to, I think we're in the SEC East, to come out of the SEC East and compete for the SEC championship game. And that's what everybody's goal is, to win the SEC East, to beat Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. Those are the main 3 schools that we're competing against. And I think UK will be able to, defeat those 3 schools, especially with all the players that left Georgia. So we'll see what happens this coming up year. But like I said, 8 wins is probably where I see them at the least. I'd say with their schedule, 8 wins at the least before the bowl game, 10 wins at the most. So I think UK football will do great this year. I wish all the players the best of luck. But that's all I had to talk about in today's podcast. I'm a little dehydrated. I need some water in me. But I hope you all enjoyed my podcast I just recorded. This coming up week, I'll be also interviewing some former UK volleyball players to discuss their national championship that they won a year ago. Yesterday was actually the 1-year anniversary. So I'm going to get them on the podcast this week, talk to a few players, talk to a few former players, just to get their input on, how that moment felt, what they are doing now, and just ask them a few questions. And hopefully y'all will definitely enjoy that. But like I said, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it, and more podcast episodes to come.